mapper video. In today's video, you know what we're going to do? Form Indonesia an empire. And yeah, just have one thing to do. Get the RGB. So then we get red, because for some reason it wants to do index, which turns everything black. And yeah, it turns all the colors, including red, even like all to the same color, which is not that great. Which now, yeah. And now we will see it get drawn in. And this is what Indonesia looks like. Well, kind of like it's obvious, but that's Indonesia for you. Yeah. And then let's go to the Indonesia part of the island of Papua New Guinea, whatever it's called. And what's the first thing an Indonesia empire does? Let's go back to what we would all expect them to do. Well, why wouldn't they invade them? With them not having to fight long, basically, Indonesia not having to fight long. Why do they not need to fight long? Because before they get that far, they get about here, and then all the resistance collapses, which allows them to do that. I don't know anything about their military. But let's say that would happen. It would be something. And now Indonesia's quest to become a world superpower continues. Along with their quest to have all their islands colored. And remember before I used this, when I used photo image pixel style, and it would take me hours to color it. Yeah, that was annoying. Now I just need to do this. Bougainville waiting to get independence. Meanwhile, the Indonesia... Wait, is that white? Actually, it's supposed to be a light red, I think. That looks like a better color, as they advance into Papua New Guinea from the north and the south. They take the main island. Bougainville does not declare its independence, which is a bit sad. Well, now they have our next tour in the Oceania. Continent I know countries that exist in it, but not where they are. Yay. Now to Phase 3. And what is Phase 3? An Oceania takeover. America closes their eyes as the Indonesian might comes crumbling all over Oceania. Well, we can look at something now. Naval dominance. Which we should. Long and skinny. But they start their next idea, which is an invasion of the Philippines. Which they move north and then they start shooting at the ships. By this time, the Philippines sees what's going up, and they declare war. Which is crazy. Indonesia now looks like they're trying to claim all of the South China Sea. Well, they will succeed. But how fast? And at what cost? What's the cost of making an empire? But the problem is, This is somewhat what their naval dominance should look like, I guess. Let's say they take over this and that. Naval dominance. If a naval area is cut off and we're going by naval dominance, well, they need to take over more naval dominance, which they push up the coast. If you can hold on to a big chunk of the coast, it makes it harder to refuel. And it also makes it harder to get forces there, which in turn basically allows Indonesia to start an invasion, a land invasion. In this land invasion, they start on multiple fronts and multiple islands. And while the big island is what they're trying to take over, within days they start taking over islands. They even managed to land onto this island, but this is a prey. Not a good idea. To take over a city, you really need air domination first. And with naval fighting starting to be more so north, a lot of vessels are being moved north. Naval dominance does not mean they control, there's no blue ships. No. It just means when there's mostly red ships controlling it. Well, they could make a landing now, but I see that as a bad idea if you don't have much naval dominance. Now you have a good spot to land. That's my military strategy. The military will take you over. Well, hopefully not. But if you use too much oil, maybe. Well, every war is about oil in the modern world. Soon it'll be about water. Water wars are the future. And you know what's after that? Well, I hope if water wars did break out, Canada would be in a bad spot. You know who else would be in a bad spot? Not just Canada, but Russia would be too. Why would we all be in a bad spot? Because we have lots of water. You know who would be in a good spot? A good spot? They know China basically stole the Mekong River. It's true. They can steal a river. Who's to say nobody else can steal water? Well, it's time for an invasion to start. And they call this war the Chinese aggression on Taiwan. Why is it called the Chinese aggression on Taiwan? Because they start sending their navy in towards Taiwan. Encircle Taiwan. No, they don't. But you know who does get involved in this Chinese aggression? Indonesia. While China is sending their forces over, they make it here. Why? This is hence the name Chinese aggression on Taiwan. But yes, I'm trying to make this video more like entertaining. If I just bring America in now, well, that would take away from entertainment. Because we know how it would end. Or even if we got Japan in. They call it the Chinese aggression on Taiwan. They call it the Chinese War of Aggression. And beside, with much happening, with Indonesia basically taking over this area and China basically taking over these areas. And then land invasion begins by the PRC. This is before Indonesia starts their land invasion. And this is how it ends. And a treaty is signed. And Indonesia annexing those lands. With the South China Sea starting to become under Indonesian pressure. with India staying neutral when this big alliance forms in between China, South Korea thinking it needs protection, Japan, and while Indonesia, Brunei, and Thailand have a referendum to see if they should. And why am I thinking that's a bad idea? Well, it is. Guess who declares war? Indonesia. And guess what? Who wants to force their way on some nations? Not just Indonesia. I tell you, the bad guys aren't the only ones. But the guys who think they're the good guys do something. And look, China firmly just gets so much control. Like, as if this isn't for control. But Australia basically says enough is enough. And they think they can stop it. But Indonesia knew this was happening because they have good spying. Australia, why would you let this happen? Indonesia knew about it. Without them realizing Indonesian ships were already headed over. Whoop. They thought it was a good idea. It didn't work so well, did it, Australia? And also, New Zealand, did it work for you, Australia's friend? Like, that's why you don't follow Australia. How is Australia made criminals? So Australia is full of criminal masterminds. With this being Australia's, isn't it Australia? You gotta be careful online. Think of the dangers of being on the internet. Just think of it. And, well, Indonesia is fighting a two-front war. How do you think it'll go? Well, they do the first land maneuver, the most aggressive move ever. And with a lot of blood. Because New Zealand basically says we will not surrender. Within hours, it's like this. After a few days, this is what it looks like. They basically say New Zealand surrender. New Zealand is like, what? The surrender? As this happens. And everybody else sees this as shocking. With their invasion of Malaysia starting. Get very bloody. With China and allies seeing this as a prime opportunity of getting a new ally. So them and allies invade Thailand's north. Now this is where this basically crumbles as naval dominance changes to this suddenly. And while Australia is just stuck in a stalemate in the ocean, and this is happening, they even take Bangkok, and they continue. With even Myanmar and Cambodia starting invasions of Thailand. After this, try and keep as much out of Indonesian control as they can. And this is basically what happens. But now it's Australia's turn. Who, while we were gone, you want to see what happened to their naval dominance? Guys, want to? Yeah. How Australia is what I'd like to ask. Well, them starting a bunch of invasions, but at the fastest speed ever seen. Or like no more Mr. Nice Guy. And you want to see the most crazy thing they do? They annex Australia. Well, they don't, but they do. If that makes any sense. They annex where it's necessary to annex. They let Australia live, guys. They let Australia live in a great spot. I hope you don't mind spiders and bugs. Or else you're in the part of Australia that is like... But really, then there's Canada geese. Yeah, puppet color using it as water. That's such a wild mapper move. Like, really? You want to see what happens here? So, it's basically annexed by China, but not annexed, because this is what the alliance looks like. But they do get military prepared as they declare full-on mobilization, which we all know where this is headed. A full-on war. Which is not great, I guess you could say. War is horrible. And yes, some of this would make no sense in reality, but where China does have the most success is actually here. By Taiwan. They even get all the way down to here, but that's about as far as they do get in that area. Meanwhile, China, before Indonesia is even ready, you know what they have done? This is done. And no, you can't invade there. You don't even have access to it. And yes, the Philippines want to play the game like this. Yeah. But guess who gets in trouble? Indonesia could become a world power. As Indonesia starts their campaign in the South China Sea. With their dominance over the South China Sea expanding so much. With them even managing to do this. This area is not very great at boats. Yeah. And with many ships and assets escaping. Surprisingly, this happens, but because a lot of Thai people basically now able to see what occupation is like as this happens. Now, you know who they do manage to take on? Vietnam, because Vietnam is basically the same thing as theirs. But guess what? I thought they were doing so great, guys. But reality happens. And as China is basically sending all of its military naval might into here. And they're liberating the South China Sea, like they see it. With this basically exhausting the Navy completely, because they overuse their Navy. That's not the last thing they overuse. They overuse the power of Mao. What? Mao. And they do this. They basically even dive into Vietnam. But Vietnam, unfortunately, has a great day. This happens as they start nearing the border of China. This happens to Laos. This happens to Vietnam. But, you know what? Reality strikes again. With Vietnamese forces rising up on multiple places. And why are they crossing the border? Because do guerrilla fighters care? No. But they stop at some point for some reason. They don't go past. It's like they're trying to form Vietnam an empire. Well, they occupy this. With Vietnam becoming declaring this as their land before they go to the last phase and declare themselves they're leaving the war, which Indonesia agrees to. So they just move around them. And this is what happens. China is in a bad spot, with Xi saying everything's going well. Definitely didn't hear somebody think that their war is going well when this is happening. With Japan and South Korea and North Korea all opting out of the war. Why do they opt out of the war? Because the war is lost. And we don't want anybody shooting nukes, do we? No. That's what I thought. With the naval dominance becoming this and much weaker. Especially with all the Japanese forces leaving. And South Korean forces. And yeah. This is how they take over the South China Sea. They basically don't go any further. Much further, I mean. All they do now is basically liberate the Philippines. And now, time to do their last goal. Last major war goal. I'm even managing to make Vietnam an ally. Well, that was kind of agreements in the terms. And I guess we should probably make it to an 8 as they do this to Hannan. They even managed to do this to Taiwan, if that's happening. One of the biggest invasions of China ever seen. Like, this is crazy. How this could be a front line. But they basically use where they have the best way to send supplies in. With them even sending a treaty to China, which China accepts. And now empire has been formed. And yeah, it has been. Like, this is just wild mapping. And they have complete control with good relations with Vietnam of the South China Sea. And China's like, how did he succeed? And I failed in my plan. What? Yeah. And well, we have Japan, South Korea, North Korea happy they snuck out of the war. Oof. As if I would see that. And I just got a message. Someone just collapsed into a state of anarchy with a bunch of capitalism spreading throughout. Is America involved in this universe somehow? Oh my god, this would take forever. And so they all do this. Edit undo. Because edit undo. And this happens, basically, with all these forces combining. And I guess communism failed. I guess Indonesia did one good thing. They made democracy return. What can I use for a placeholder color? Yeah, I'll use green for a placeholder color because we're talking about democracy. It needs to be blue. And let's talk about communism, which needs to be red. And this is what it looks like. The communist forces already lost the Civil War. Yeah. A Civil War has gone great for China. And we are at 76 subscribers currently, 14 away from 100. 100 is our next goal. So if you could help out, please get me to 100 subscribers. Tell everyone you know to subscribe, and then they'll subscribe, and then I'll get her on YouTube. And yeah. And also in the thumbnail, you probably won't see all the islands. Wait, I have a perfect idea for thumbnail. It won't make much sense, but still a perfect thumbnail. I think my solution should be erase all of the blue for my thumbnail. And so I'll see you guys in the future again. At 100 subscribers for the live stream of me taking over the world, Dictators No Peace, and that will be the 100 subscriber special. It'll be a live stream. So whenever I hit 100, there'll be a subscriber special. That'll be a live stream. And why should you like? Because liking increases this video's potential. And why should you share the video so people can see it? Why should you comment so YouTube starts recommending it to more people? And that's what's going on. So please like, subscribe, and comment on today's Wild Mapper video. That's all for today's Wild Mapper video. Please like and subscribe. Wild Mapper out.